A sequel to a movie about 3 lunatics who died in the end of the last one. Okay, Mr. Zombie, let's see how you pull this off. Three from Hell is the sequel to Rob Zombie's beloved The Devil's Rejects. We follow our merry band of psychopaths about 10 years after the events of the last movie. I don't want to give away too much story-wise here because how they survived the last movie and everything that happens from there is part of the fun. All you need to know is that these nut jobs that you've come to love go on another killing spree like they did last time, though this time they do have a direction they're going and a purpose, I guess. Kinda. I really liked The Devil's Rejects, which was a surprise to me because I really didn't like House of a Thousand Corpses, which The Devil's Reject is a sequel to. I was really looking forward to House of a Thousand Corpses when it came out because I was a fan of Rob Zombie's music and this was the first movie that he had directed. So I thought, you know, this is going to be a pretty cool movie possibly. No. It wasn't. I was very disappointed. Did not like that movie at all. Now, I know that some people do really like this movie, and one of the reasons I probably didn't like it is because it was very reminiscent of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I, unlike a lot of people, just don't like that movie. I'm not grossed out by it or scared of it or any of that shit. It's just, I just don't like the movie. It makes me feel really dirty, which I know is part of its thing. But beyond that, I just really didn't like the story. It never grabbed me, just nothing about it ever appealed to me. And House of a Thousand Corpses definitely had a very Texas Chainsaw Massacre feel to it overall. So it was no surprise to me after seeing the movie and realizing that I didn't enjoy it. What was a surprise to me is that when its sequel, The Devil's Rejects, came out, how much I enjoyed that movie. But we're not here to talk about The Devil's Rejects. We're here to talk about Three from Hell. And due to how much I did enjoy The Devil's Rejects, I was really looking forward to Three from Hell. Though I was a bit confused as how they were going to continue the story of these characters that all died in the end of the last movie. And that's something the movie does really well here, is fill you in as to how they are in this movie, how they survived the events of the last movie, and the ensuing trial and everything else that goes on in the roughly 10 years between that movie and this one. The first few minutes of the movie is comprised totally of like faux news footage and documentary interviews and things like that. It's not a new technique by any means, but here it's employed very well. And while it is a way to just dump a lot of exposition on you quickly to get you up to speed, it's done in a creative, interesting, and entertaining way. Speaking of entertaining, this movie is just that. I don't think it necessarily has as much to say as, say, Devil's Rejects did, but it is very entertaining from beginning to end. And fans of The Devil's Rejects, and of course fans of House of a Thousand Corpses, are going to find a lot to like here and have a good time. It is dirty as hell and grimy and really embraces that grindhouse feel. And that's probably the best way I can describe the overall feel of this movie. It's very grindhouse. Be it the way it's shot, directed, the performances, the over-the-top violence, all of it is very grindhouse. It definitely commits to that feel and sticks to it all the way to the end. So in other words, if you don't like those grindhouse kind of movies, you're probably not going to find much here. But if you do, I think you're in for a hell of a ride. Like everything else, the performances here very much fit in line with that grindhouse aesthetic and feel. And they are all really good for what this movie's going for. This isn't Oscar caliber work here, but it's not trying to be. It's all going for an over-the-top feel, and that's what we get here. But these over-the-top performances aren't because the performances aren't talented at their craft, it's because that's what fits with this kind of movie. So it all works. Which you really don't want the movie to be too serious or the characters' performances to be too serious, because if they are, it becomes a little too real, your characters become unlikable, and you have a hard time rooting for the heroes of the movie. I mean, we are talking about mass murdering psychopaths after all. But no, overall, they keep it pretty light and way over the top, so you have a good time following these insane characters along. Something this movie does do better, in my opinion, than the previous two movies is its narrative structure. Now, while we'll talk about that narrative here in a minute, and what I think it is lacking, I will say that the actual structure of the movie is much more structured and easier to understand than the previous two movies. Not that they're hard to understand, but this one's just easier to get into and go along for the ride. It's structured better. There you go. So that's a lot of good stuff, but unfortunately, unfortunately, it's not all rainbows and unicorns here. While yeah, one of the positives is the narrative structure, the actual narrative itself is lacking in a few departments. It's not bad so much as just kind of unnecessary. I mean, I won't lie, I had a good time with this movie and I enjoyed watching these characters go on this journey. And I do understand the journey that they're on. I just don't know if a whole entire movie needed to be devoted to it. The movie has a great third act, and it seems like the movie is working towards that the whole time. Which, I mean, yeah, of course it's working towards the third act the whole time, but it seems like the third act is the idea they had first, and then they said, okay, how do we get from where they are at the end of the last movie to this place that would be pretty cool? And they do get them there for sure, and it is in an entertaining way. I was just expecting something a little more, honestly. Admittedly though, when they get to that third act and shit just goes crazy, it's a good time and you kind of forget about all that came before. The main characters here don't really grow at all throughout the film either. There's no real arc to it all. There's a story and you understand what's going on there, but there's no character arc to any of them. They're still entertaining as hell to watching their crazy over-the-top insanity, but besides the obvious getting out of prison, there's nothing that really changes or grows the characters from the beginning to the end. They're pretty much just in the same spot personally as they were in the beginning. And while that may sound like a minor thing, it's really not. Your stories need growth to the characters. And going back to what I said about the overall story a second ago, the story itself is fairly simple. Now, simple's fine. I'm okay with that. I don't mind simple. But I think with that simplicity on top of the zero character growth, and really the fact that not much is going on with this movie before the last third, is what's holding it back. It makes it seem like it's lacking something in that story department. This is a weird one because I did enjoy this movie. I had a good time from beginning to end. But some of the shortcomings in the story are holding it back just enough from that awesomeness that it should be. That last 20 minutes is pretty fucking badass though. Either way guys, at the end of the day, I had a great time with this movie and I really enjoyed it. It definitely has its flaws. It's not perfect by any means. And I don't think it's gonna have the staying power of The Devil's Rejects. And while you probably shouldn't rush out and buy this one, it's definitely worth a look on Netflix. It's a whole lot better than House of a Thousand Corpses, that's for damn sure. Hated that fucking movie. So there it is guys, my review of 3 from Hell. Great title by the way. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a thumbs up. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.
I'm saying I'm just a clown dancing for the fucking man.
A dancing clown that's been convicted of 38 murders.
I'm gonna slap the shit out of you.
Despite its flaws, I did enjoy this movie, but I really hope they just end it here. We don't need a fourth one. I think that the ambiguity of the future for these characters is exactly where it needs to be left. So please, movie gods, just leave well enough alone. Please, don't fuck up a good thing.